Greetings, friends. My name is Renee Edge, and Edge to Health is my wellness group where we take a look at a whole variety of things that impact your wellness. I first became interested in wellness because I've been a teacher for 26 years and a therapeutic foster parent for 15. And I really started looking at the connections between trauma and nutrition. And I discovered that the signs and symptoms that you see of a child being malnourished actually happen to match up with the signs and symptoms you see of a child who has suffered trauma. So I started really exploring that connection. And out of that, I have begun studying health and wellness, and I have received a number of wellness and health certifications. And so tonight we are actually on day 12 of the sugar detox that has been running in our group. So we're going to talk a little bit tonight about sugar and the impact on your brain. So everything that you eat falls into three categories. It's carbohydrates, including your fiber, fats, and proteins. Now, sugar is a type of carbohydrate that is easy to digest. The body breaks down carbohydrates into sugars on the cellular level and gives us energy from them. We use that sugar to make up DNA. We use sugar for energy. We store sugar for fuel. That's where your fat comes from. Now, sugar is a fundamental molecule in biology. It's not bad, but it isn't a health food either. For most people, a little bit of sugar is fine, and it fits okay into your overall diet pattern. But many times we're eating far more sugar than we realize. The average American consumes 42.5 teaspoons of sugar a day, and overconsumption of any substance can definitely lead to excess weight gain. Now, it's important to get your carbohydrates in, and those are things that have naturally occurring sugars. Those are natural sources like plants versus your processed foods. Specifically, one of the biggest problems right now is high fructose corn syrup, which was first introduced in the 1970s. It's a processed sugar. It's produced by converting glucose, which is that basic sugar that your muscles use to run and your body uses to provide itself for energy all day, every day. It converts glucose into fructose. Now, fructose is 1.5 times sweeter than regular sugar. Processed foods often have a lot of sugar added, and that makes them taste really, really good. We digest and absorb energy from those processed foods very quickly and very easily. That added sugar then overstimulates the reward pleasure centers in our brain, and we tend to overeat on those foods. Now, research has shown that diets high in sugar can really impact the brain. We get impacts on the ability to control behavior and make decisions. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about what those impacts on the brain are. Sugar has a drug-like effect in the reward center of the brain. Scientists have proposed that sweet foods, along with salty and fatty foods, can actually produce addiction-like effects in the human brain, driving that loss of self-control, overeating, and then the weight gain that goes with that. Now, in the beginning, early humans really needed all of that excess sugar because they were in fight or flight mode often as they tried to keep themselves alive from the predators that were trying to eat them. However, we are no longer doing that. And that primitive drive that's still there to take something that we like, that dopamine rush that comes with it, is really what causes that pattern of overeating. In humans, high glycemic foods, which are high sugar foods, are found to activate regions in the brain associated with the reward response and provide more intense feelings of hunger compared to low glycemic foods. Foods that cause a higher elevation of blood glucose produce a greater addictive drive in the brain. Now, the question is sugar addiction a real thing? Additional studies have shown, when they look at brain activity, that the idea of overeating alters our brain's reward system, and that further drives the overeating. And that's the same process that underlies what happens with addiction and tolerance in addiction. Basically, over time, you need greater and greater amounts of sugar in this case to receive the same rewards and the same pleasure feeling as you would in the same way that you would be taking a drug. So, throughout the body, sugar is very harmful. Okay? It harms the brain, it slows cognitive function, and it causes deficits in memory and attention. There are some research studies that show that it also can lead to inflammation in the brain, leading to memory difficulties. And sugar can also affect our mood. In healthy young people, the ability to process emotion is compromised when their blood glucose is elevated. So think about how a teenager or young person gets the couple of days after Halloween when they're eating every bit of candy that they have managed to collect. Their ability to process emotion isn't quite the same, and their response is very different during that time. There's also a number of studies actually, that link sugar consumption with depression. And they found that higher rates of sugar consumption were associated with greater rates of depression. Another part of this is that elevated blood glucose can harm your blood vessels. Blood vessel damage is a major cause of the vascular complications leading to diabetes, which then leads to other problems such as damage to the blood vessels in the brain and in the eyes. When they studied diabetics long term, they saw progressive brain damage leading to deficits in learning, memory, motor speed, and a whole lot of other cognitive functions. Frequent exposure to high glucose levels shrinks the brain's capacity, and you have a greater degree of brain shrinkage if you have high A1C levels on a regular basis. So I know everybody's thinking, well, that's not me. I'm not diabetic. It doesn't matter. Even those without diabetes, higher sugar consumption is associated with lower scores on tests of cognitive function. That is thought to be due to a combination of hyperglycemia, hypertension, insulin resistance, and elevated cholesterol. So there's a whole lot that happens within your body. And a lot of it is impacted by sugar. So we have spent the last 12 of the 14 days. Our sugar detox ends on Sunday. And what you're going to want to do is just think about, how can I find ways to continue to keep the good habits that I have set going? If you need support in that, do not hesitate to reach out. This group pilots all of my materials that I'm working on and researching, but I also do one-to-one coaching with clients. So if you are interested in some further support, do not hesitate to reach out. I hope that you continue to find success on your journey to eliminate sugar from your life. Enjoy those natural sugars that you find in fruits and vegetables, and lose those processed sugars. With that in mind, everyone have a wonderful rest of your evening.